Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the Rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. At this time, my subject is God watches how you treat the underdog. Winners may write the history books, but the authors of the Bible were people who had been losers and who thought hard about life from that vantage point. The earlier parts of the biblical tradition reflect the experience of being the lowest of the low in Egyptian society, described in the Ten Commandments as Beit Avadim, the house of slaves. Not the house of slavery, the house of slaves. And the famous Jewish comment to that is the place where the Egyptians themselves were slaves to Pharaoh, and you were slaves to slaves. The later parts of the Bible reflect the loss of the first temple, the extinction of Israelite and Judean independence in their own land, and the exile of the Judean survivors to Babylon. In our annual encounter with the text of the Bible, we are now at one of the central collections of law, the Holiness Code, especially chapter 19 of Leviticus. The designation holiness comes from the beginning of the chapter with its overarching command, Kiddoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Leviticus 19, verse 2. The laws of this code cover a lot of ground, ritual as well as ethical, but the theme of holiness binds the entire collection. Holiness, therefore, means different things in different contexts, but it always asks us to be our best selves, to make the extraordinary limits of our potential for goodness the lodestar by which to steer our ordinary lives. In a passage unparalleled in any of the ancient non-biblical Near Eastern law codes, to my knowledge, this demand to be holy leads to rules regarding how the non-disabled treat the disabled. Lo tikalel cheresh, v'lifnei iver lo tasim michshol, v'yareta me'elohecha, ani Adonai. You shall not vilify the deaf, and before the blind you shall not put a stumbling block, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. Biblical laws do not always present general cases. In those instances, the rabbis take pains to search the specific exemplary laws present in the Bible and to generalize from them. In keeping with their method, they read this verse and find ways to generalize instructions on not taking unfair advantage of each other. They do not limit their interpretation of this verse to the disabled specifically. I understand the rabbinic impulse. In the absence of Jewish sovereignty and with the central institution of Jewish life, the temple, in ruins, they were helping the people to live by the rules of the Torah. But sometimes that impulse resulted in the rabbinic interpretation developing in a certain degree of tension with the thrust of the original biblical text. I submit that this is what has happened here. In their desire to make the law of Leviticus 19:14 serve a broader purpose of regulating interpersonal relations and prohibiting as broadly as possible an unfair taking of advantage of one's neighbor, the rabbis opted not to connect the dots in the Bible text in a way that seems compelling to me. Considering the thrust of these verses, all found in the same chapter of Leviticus as the verse prohibiting cursing the deaf or causing the blind to stumble. Hear them all as a group. Leviticus 19, verse 10. When you reap your land's harvest, you shall not finish off the edge of your field, nor pick up the gleanings of your harvest. For the poor and for the sojourner you shall leave them. I am the Lord your God. Chapter 19, verse 13. You shall not defraud. You shall not rob. You shall not keep the hired man's wages with you till morning. Chapter 19, verse 33. Before a gray head shall you rise, and you shall defer to an elder and fear your God. I am the Lord. Chapter 19, verse 34. And should a sojourner sojourn with you, you shall not wrong him. Like the native among you shall be the sojourner who sojourns with you, and you shall love him like yourself, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. What do these verses have in common? They caution us especially against taking advantage of the inequalities commonly found in society. The hired hand was in a weak position vis-à-vis his employer in Bronze Age society, as in many other days and ages since. The elderly could well be victimized, and often were, on account of their greater degree of physical infirmity than the younger adult generation. The sojourner had no extended family on whom to depend for support and for self-defense. And it goes almost without saying that the poor were liable to suffer abuse. The Bible is making a very clear point. Those in an advantaged position are cautioned not to give in to temptation and go beyond the ethical restraints commanded by God in their treatment of those weaker than themselves. Often these verses include the concluding clauses, "You shall fear God," and "I am the Lord." God is reminding the powerful that there is a power more powerful than they. If their conscience does not function as a guide, God is warning them that there may be consequences. In America, in 2025, we need to hear these words clearly. The weak are in the crosshairs of an agenda that may wish to shrink the power of the federal government, but runs the risk of leaving them exposed to harm, and worse, that may harm them directly. To those who are enjoying a moment of great political power in America today, I must say this, in the name of our religious tradition. God is more powerful than you. Take heed, lest our society become more like Pharaoh's Egypt than like the blueprint given to Israel at Sinai. Take heed and take care. Shalom.